Why did your joint supplements work when you were 30, but suddenly stop helping after 50? It's because of a quiet biological shift most doctors rarely mention. After midlife, your body slowly stops producing a natural joint grease that keeps cartilage smooth and protected. Without it, your knees can start feeling like they're filled with broken glass from something called synovial fluid friction. And here's the surprising part. Glucosamine is a large molecule that often can't even reach the joint space where the real damage is happening. It's like trying to mail a letter without a stamp. But there is a small, overlooked nutrient, what I call the forgotten fat, that can slip through those barriers and help restore the protective oil your joints have been missing.
Imagine for a second that you've done everything right. You eat your greens, you walk the neighborhood, and you never miss that expensive joint supplement every morning. You're a rule follower. But lately, the room feels a little heavier. Your joints don't just ache, they feel stiff, like they're being filled with wet sand. Every morning is a negotiation just to get out of bed. You wonder if this is the beginning of the end for your mobility. Meet Arthur. Arthur is 72, and he's a fighter. He used to love gardening, but now he mostly watches from the porch. His knees don't just hurt, they feel like they're filled with broken glass. He followed the script to a T, loading up on glucosamine for a decade, yet nothing changes. Arthur feels betrayed. He's staring at his pill organizer with a quiet, cold dread, wondering if he's just rusting out from the inside. Arthur didn't fail. His supplement did. Think of your joints like a door hinge. When they're healthy, they glide. But right now, your body is dealing with synovial fluid friction. It's like trying to slide two pieces of dry sandpaper against each other. Listen to this. Glucosamine is just a pile of bricks meant to build cartilage. But without a specific driver, those bricks are just sitting in the driveway. They aren't reaching the building. The truth is, that glucosamine you're counting on might be completely useless because it's missing the delivery driver. But wait until you see why your body is actually drying out, because that's where the invisible enemy truly takes hold. Here's what they don't tell you. You've been told for decades that your pain is just age, but that's a lazy answer. It's not just age, it's a mechanical failure. Think of your joint like a heavy door hinge that hasn't been greased in 30 years. No matter how much you reinforce the metal, if there's no oil, every time it moves, it screams. Most people treat their joints like a house under construction. They swallow glucosamine because it's the brick and mortar for the cartilage. But here is the problem. If your joints are dry and inflamed, adding more bricks doesn't help. It's like trying to fix a dry car engine by throwing metal parts at it instead of pouring in oil. Does that make sense? The invisible enemy isn't a lack of cartilage building blocks. It is the drying out of your synovial membrane, the oil leak of the human body. Inside your joint is a synovial sac that should be plump and slick. But as you get older, you experience phospholipid depletion. These fats are the actual grease that keep your bones from gliding. Without them, the environment becomes hostile, dry, gritty, constant. You're literally starving your joints of the one thing they need to glide. But this is just the beginning of the betrayal, because there's a specific type of fat that your body actually stops making after 50. Look, there's a biological secret to your pain that most doctors completely overlook. When you were 30, your joints felt like they were floating on air, but now every movement feels messy and ugly. Why? Because there's a specific type of fat, the joint grease, that your body simply stops making after you hit 50. This is why those pills that worked in your youth are failing you now. Inside your joints, you have something called polar lipids. These aren't the kind of fats you see on a steak. These are specialized lubricants that allow your cartilage to glide without touching. But as that production shuts down, you're left with that gritty, grinding sensation. It's a physical drying out of the machinery. Now, let's talk about that bottle of glucosamine sitting on your counter. In the world of biology, glucosamine is a large molecule. Trying to get it into your joint is like trying to mail a letter without a stamp. It just sits in the dead letter office, which is your gut, waiting for a ride that never comes. Because of its high molecular weight and poor bioavailability, it almost never reaches the actual synovial sac. The forgotten fat, on the other hand, is small. It slips right through the barriers that stop the big supplements cold. But here is where the story gets really frustrating. You've been told that the blood-joint barrier is impossible to cross, but the supplement industry has been hiding a one-ingredient lie right under your nose. You've probably looked at that mountain of half-empty supplement bottles and felt a sinking suspicion that you're being scammed. You aren't crazy. You've been told that a single pill can fix a multi-system failure, but that is the one-ingredient lie. Your doctor saw the bottle. He said it couldn't hurt. He was wrong. The glucosamine industry counts on you not knowing about the blood-joint barrier. Think of your knee like a high-security vault. When you swallow that pill, it has to survive the first-pass metabolism in your liver, a brutal filtering process that treats your expensive supplement like a waste product. Listen to this. Roughly 90% of what you swallow for your joints is filtered out and flushed away before it ever gets close to your cartilage. Taking standard glucosamine is like throwing a bucket of water at a house fire from all the way across the street. You're making a mess, but you aren't putting out the flames. It's an expensive urine factory, and the industry is laughing all the way to the bank while you're still struggling to walk the hallway. But it gets worse. Because you aren't just wasting money, you might be following a heart-healthy habit right now in your own kitchen that is actually causing your joints to petrify. There is a low-fat trap that is actively draining the last bit of oil from your system while you sleep.
It gets worse. You've likely been told for 40 years to avoid fat like the plague. You buy the skim milk, you choose the lean cuts, and you use those heart-healthy seed oils because you want to stay around for your grandkids. You think you're building a fortress of health, but here is the part they don't want to tell you. You are walking straight into the low-fat trap. By starving your body of structural fats, you're essentially draining the oil from your car just to save a little weight. Does that sound like a good idea? Of course not. Your car engine would seize up in miles, and your joints are doing the exact same thing. Your healthy diet is often loaded with pro-inflammatory omega-6 fats from those processed seed oils, while being completely devoid of the lubricating omega-3s your cartilage is screaming for. Instead of smooth, oily cushions, your joints are becoming dry, brittle, and inflamed. They are starting to petrify. You are fighting a losing battle in your own kitchen. Every healthy diet is pulling more grease out of the gears, and the stakes are much higher than just a stiff morning. Because there is a specific point where this oil leak stops being a nuisance and starts becoming a direct threat to your very dignity. It leads to a slow slide that could eventually strip away your ability to even live in your own home. Take a second and really think about your biggest fear. For most of us, it isn't death, it's the slow slide. It's that terrifying day you realize you can't quite trust your legs on the stairs, or the moment you have to trade your favorite walking shoes for a metal walker, and then, eventually, a wheelchair. The stairs in your own house aren't just steps anymore.
they're an enemy. Independence isn't a gift, it's a right you are losing every single morning that you wake up stiff. When your joints decay, your world shrinks. You start saying no to lunch with friends or walks in the park because the blank stare of chronic pain makes social isolation feel easier than moving. But here is what is actually happening behind the scenes. As your joints harden, your body undergoes vascular calcification, literally turning your flexible tissues into stone. This triggers sarcopenia, which is just a fancy way of saying your muscles are wasting away because your nerves are under too much stress to fire correctly. Imagine a city where the phone lines have been cut. The lights are on, but no messages are getting through. That is a calcified joint. If you can't walk those stairs, you lose the right to live in your own home. You become a burden. You lose your dignity. But listen to this. This power outage in your mobility can be reversed. There is a way to flip the breakers and bring the grid back online, but it requires a hero ingredient that has been hiding in plain sight at your local pharmacy.
You've spent years trying to force a square peg into a round hole, but the fix is staring you in the face. You don't need a suitcase full of new pills. You just need the key that actually fits the vault. To stop the rust from seizing up your joints and arteries, you need a hero ingredient that has been hiding in plain sight. Meet the forgotten fat, specifically cetyl myristilate, or CMO, often found in green-lipped muscle oil. Think of this fat as the traffic cop standing in the middle of a dangerously busy intersection. It holds up a stop sign to the inflammation trying to wreck your cartilage, and instead it waves the lubrication directly into the joint space. Unlike glucosamine, these specific lipids actually cross the blood-joint barrier because they speak the same biological language as your synovial membrane. Here is how it repairs you from the inside out. It waterproofs the joint. It creates a slick protective barrier that stops the bone-on-bone grinding. It regulates prostaglandins. This is just a fancy way of saying it shuts off the pain alarm at the source, rather than just masking it. It acts as a sealant. It stops the oil leak we talked about by repairing the synovial sac. You aren't just masking the pain, you are knitting your vitality back together. But here is the catch. You can't just swallow a random capsule and expect a miracle. There is a fat-soluble secret to how you take this hero fat that determines if these lipids are actually repairing your joints or just being wasted. If you take your hero fat on an empty stomach with just a glass of water, its effectiveness is basically zero. Taking these nutrients without fat is like trying to drive a car with no wheels. You can rev the engine all you want, but you aren't going anywhere. These lipids require lipid micelle absorption, which is just a fancy way of saying they need to hitch a ride on other fat molecules to get through your gut wall and into your blood. Here is your plug-and-play protocol to get it right every time. Step 1. Check your bottle. You're looking for cetyl myristilate or high-quality green-lipped muscle oil. Step 2. Eat an egg, a slice of avocado, or a spoonful of olive oil. You need that healthy fat to grease the wheels for absorption. Step 3. Take them together. The carrier fat picks up the hero fat and drives it home to your joints. By tomorrow morning, those rusting hinges should start to feel a little smoother. But before you think you're in the clear, there's a 1-minute kitchen hack you need to know about. Because even if you're taking the right fats, there's a hidden danger in your tap water that is actively bleaching the minerals out of your body.
I know what you're thinking. You're worried about slipping up and having those stiff joints and aching bones come roaring back the second you miss a dose. Listen to this. You don't have to live in a cage to keep your heart and skeleton healthy. This is the secret to staying upright for the next 20 years. Think of your joint health like a three-legged stool. The legs are vitamin D, vitamin K2, and the forgotten fat we just talked about. But for that stool to stay balanced, you need the final member of the trinity, the hydration connection. If you remove just one, the whole thing falls over, and you're right back on the floor. You see, your joints need magnesium to act as a spark plug for hyaluronic acid synthesis. This is the process that actually creates the fluid inside your joint sac. Without it, your joint grease just dries up. But there's a hidden danger in your kitchen. Most tap water is hungry. It's been stripped of everything, and when you drink it, it actually leaches minerals out of your cells. Here is that 1-minute kitchen hack I promised. To stop this mineral bleaching, simply add a tiny pinch of Celtic sea salt to your water pitcher. This turns your water from a thief into a delivery system for pennies a day. You're almost there, but before you go, I have to give you one final mic drop warning. Because the low-fat craze didn't just hurt your heart, it might be the biggest reason your generation is losing its dignity. Imagine yourself 6 months from today. You wake up, and for the first time in years, that heavy, sand-filled feeling in your joints is gone. You sit up, your feet hit the floor, and there's no wincing, just a smooth, easy movement. You aren't just surviving, you are finally thriving. The mirror doesn't have to be your enemy. When you look in it now, you see someone who outsmarted a broken system that was never designed for your longevity. You're back on the walking trails, keeping up with the grandkids, and your mind is sharp. This is what happens when you fix the oil leak at the source and put the traffic cop back on duty. The nursing home can wait. You have lives to live. But I have to give you one final mic drop warning. Because the low-fat craze didn't just hurt your heart, it might be the biggest reason your generation is losing its dignity. You've been told to do low-impact exercise to save your joints, but if you don't have the joint grease first, even a light walk is a joint killer. It's like running a dry engine at low speeds. It still grinds the metal. You are now part of a growing movement of people reclaiming their dignity and their independence. By fixing your forgotten fat protocol, you've taken the first real step toward permanent freedom. But don't keep this victory to yourself. I want to hear your story in the comments below. Have those hinges finally started to move with ease? We're exposing even more of these hidden health traps in our next video, starting with the healthy whole wheat lie. Don't miss it. How long have you been wasting money on glucosamine?